For the best listening experience, please download our sprlivefm.com app from either the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. You will not only experience our radio, but SPR, TV, and live chat.
YOUNGDO. We have YOUNGDO with us. Listen, we are happy to have him with us this morning, and I'll briefly say, and he will fill us in as we go along. City Lights, the hip hop community being transformed by God through exploring, trusting, and sharing Jesus Christ together. It says hip hop plus God plus you're invited. And it also says growing in faith, friendships, and our skills, building loving and loyal relationships with God, telling others about life in Jesus Christ. And what better way to live your life than to share Jesus Christ with everyone and all? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Praise Life Morning Show. We are happy, glad to have you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here and nervous, but glad to be here.
No
Yeah.
need.
I told you already, nervous is my position.
No,
You
no
ain't
need
getting
to.
it.
No need to be nervous, my brother. No need to be nervous. So tell us something. In terms of your, there's very little on the website. I don't know if you went to the website or not. Tell us a little bit more about what you do and location and things like that. And who are you, by the way?
Yeah, my name is Youngdo.
Right?
Yeah, Youngdo Kang. Um, I don't know how much time we have or what you want to know,
Yeah,
I
go right
guess.
ahead. Go right ahead. We'll tell you. Don't worry. We got a lot of time.
Um, yeah, I'm one of those guys that kind of parents took you to church when you were little,
hmm
kind of stopped going in the adolescent years, I guess. Found Christ in middle of university. Hesitantly went to seminary, went there, eventually became a pastor,
Hmm.
did that for a while. And then God called me to be, I guess, technically a missionary. And so we're now doing what we can, trying a bunch of different things over the years to kind of bless the hip hop community. And so some of those things are just simple kind of there's simple things where you just really giving them opportunities. Like every week we have a breakdancing practice. We host one of those for the community. They're not like a bait and switch to trick them into hearing about Jesus. It's just opportunity to say, hey, you guys need a place to practice. Let us host you one. And that's kind of in the Toronto area. My church lets us use their gym, which is very generous of them. We do
Mhm.
that every week. And then we also have online Bible studies for people who are more interested, want to go more depth with the word and learning about Christ and how to follow God. And um, what else do we do? We've tried a whole bunch of things over the years to see what works and doesn't work. And had God lead us through them all. And sometimes they didn't work, and we kept going, and then they eventually worked. And sometimes they did work, and then God's like, "Well, that's run its course." We're like, "Oh, okay, we thought it was going well," but all right. And then
Change up on you, huh?
yeah, so we never know what's gonna stick and what's not, but it's all the Lord's leading. One thing that we started maybe a year and a half ago, or less than a year and a half ago, was we now have online hip hop church services, or hip hop, quote unquote, hip hop church service. We do those once a month to really bless people. We have music playing, we have videos going of like breakdancing and graffiti and such, and then we have like
Okay.
someone sharing a testimony and someone sharing a sermon, and we've been doing those for a while, and it's been fun, hard but fun. This is a great
What is the
ministry.
success level of really drawing young people? I guess mostly are young people to Christ through this system, like that you're using hip hop, graffiti, and all that kind of stuff. What's the success rate in that?
It's been hard to gauge. There was a moment where, like, say we've been doing this for 11 years. I've been doing it for 11 years. And so about 5 years in, I was like, I don't see the fruit here. Like, maybe we should call it quits and stuff. And then another missionary from SIM Canada was saying, 5 years, that's too young. That's too early to make a judgment call like that. You
Mm,
gotta wait like 7 years, 10 years. Then now she told me 20 years, but I think there's been various fruit in terms of people hearing about Christ for the first time. There's so many people in the hip hop community that don't know anything about God
mm-hmm,
or church or faith, or they know just kind of the bad stuff that they hear
mm-hmm,
about
Mm,
churches. Um, we've also been fruitful in terms of handing out Bibles to people at events. We've also been fruitful in terms of uh, there's a lot of Christians that as well, they don't always feel comfortable in the church. And so
mm,
we're able to provide them a place in a group of people that can help grow their faith and encourage them to, yeah, to just walk with the Lord more or help introduce other people to the Lord. Uh,
yeah.
and so there's God's been doing a great thing in terms of various different ways of how we've been able to be effective and help people out. Not just that. I mean, again, if it's just their terms of their skills, like when they want to rap better, they want to, we'll provide opportunities for that and just bless them with those things. And um, it's been a real blessing. It's been kind of amazing to see what God's been doing in the last 11 years or so.
I
um, sorry, go ahead, Fati.
no, I was just gonna say I noticed there was a list of things, and you did mention the breaking session in the graft sketch sessions. What are the scratch sessions about?
So the scratch sessions, we have a DJ. He's joined our team and out in Calgary. So we're mostly based, like I'm in Toronto. We're mostly based in Toronto, but we got
Okay.
a guy who's partnered up and he's part of the crew and he's in Calgary. And so once a month, he's a DJ. So once a month, he'll invite other DJs at either at his house or at another place that they kind of borrow or
Mm-hmm.
rent. And then all the DJs come and they're just practicing scratching on the turntables and they're just
Okay. Yeah.
building that, yeah, giving them opportunities too to practice, get better, and just love them
Mm.
and care for them, and yeah,
Yeah. The International Summit. Tell us about that.
yeah, that's been fun and is stressful to put on every year. So it's really this conference that we put together, or this summit we put together, where like I mentioned, there's a lot of what kind of happens is if you're hip hop and Christian, you kind of start to feel alone. You start to feel lonely because you're almost like, I'm too hip hop for the church, but I'm too churchy for the hip hop. You kind of just don't feel like you 100% feeling either.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so we started this conference that once a year we would get people together that are Christians and in hip hop, and just to kind of build fellowship, build networking, really just to encourage them to keep going in faith.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't intend it for it to be international. I mean, our hope was just, oh, we'll just gather all the Canadians together. And then
Mm-hmm.
we'd have guys from Australia and the States and just people kind of come up and join us. And so that's been a real blessing as well. But
Oh,
it's been a time to really we put it on once a year to really just encourage people to keep going in
okay.
the faith. Yeah.
Mm.
Now,
Welcome.
I know you said earlier that you were a pastor for a while. What made you stop pastoring?
really just God moving me to do the hip hop thing. There was a time where I was sitting and reflecting while being a pastor, going, what am I going to do? What are we doing here? How's ministry been? And realizing that over several years, God had kept putting this hip hop thing in my way. I grew up hip hop, loving hip hop music and those kind of stuff. And just I remember, and then things came back to me like, oh, I used to write for this Christian hip hop magazine, and then I remember when I got too busy and I put that away, and then someone would call me up and be like, hey, can you help us out with this show? And I'm like, oh, cool, and I put that away, and then and then I'm realizing, and every time I put this hip hop thing away, it keeps coming back to me. So I'm like, I wonder if God's trying to tell me something here, and so even while I was a pastor at one time at this church I was at, we started to develop small groups. And so it just started. I'm like, well, all right, God, I'll put a toe in the water and we'll see, put together a small group
Hmm.
of people that liked hip hop. And oh, this is kind of working, And then when I went to another church, God kept tapping me on the shoulder still and was like, hey, this hip hop thing. And so, all right, well, we'll try once a month Q&As. It wasn't even too busy to prepare for Bible studies and things. Like, just come here and talk, and we'll just talk. And, and that kept working. And then, so we're like, okay. And then God, on his graciousness and generosity, sent me to a Christian hip hop conference in Australia, totally on his money. I did had no money for that. Um, and it was kind of like, would God send me halfway around the world to just see the things that they're doing? I was like, oh, you can do that? Like, that's what I would dream of doing. And other people there from around the world saying, you should do this. I'm like, well, does God send me halfway around the world on his dime to say, yo, I'm glad you like that, but that's not for you? Like, I don't think he works like that. So I was like, and then things were going on at my church at the time. So I was like, I think this is my calling. I think this is where God's moving me. And just started doing that. There's a whole longer version, but that's kind of started doing the hip hop ministry and outreach and those things, and it's been a real. I do tell people this is the hardest ministry I've ever done, but it's been the most enjoyable ministry I've ever done as well. And I loved being a pastor. This has been real fun and challenging and great, but kind of that's how God kind of nutshell version of that's how God moved me to do this.
What was the call to you going to Bible college? Because I mean, going to church, probably is the last thing on your mind wanting to go to Bible college. I mean, I thought about that so many years ago. Thought about going. I went, and life itself just took over. So I never end up going to Bible college, but I did my own home studies, so to speak. What was it for you like making that decision? Say, I'm going to go to Bible college because this is what I want to do.
Oh, you want to get into all my stories of how many times I told God no? Uh,
Oh.
So I became when I was in university is when I found Christ out on a trip to Korea.
Hmm.
Um, when it came back, kind of all the older people were saying, "Oh, you should pray about what God wants you to do." So I was just like, "Oh, okay." I was just just following their lead, and then God was like, "Be a pastor," and I was like, "No." I stopped praying for like 6 months because I didn't want to hear it anymore. Um, and then graduation's coming up. I did not want to continue on in what I was studying. So I was like, all right, God, what do you want me to do? And he's like, be a minister. And I was like, no, I don't want that life. I don't want that, which is funny in hindsight because like I had no idea what that life was about, but I was like, no, I don't want that. And then this church, I knew this one pastor that knew this other church that was going on a mission trip to South Africa. And so I was like, can I tag along? They're like, yeah. And then when I went, all right, God, um, I'll be back in Canada in 20 days. I want to know what I'm doing. Here are your choices. I said I could continue on grad school. I know I tell that story and I did say it like that. And people are like, you don't talk to God like that. I'm like, I guess I didn't know that. I was just like, well, here are your choices, God. I was like,
Actually, God don't mind you talking to him like that, but he gets fun
Exactly.
responding to you.
He'll
I'm
just
quite sure he has
right.
fun
He
responding. You're
knows
like,
how to
oh, you
respond
really?
to you when you
Yeah.
talk.
Oh, really?
yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. But go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, I mean, I gave him the choices, and then one of them, two of them were seminary. One was in Toronto, one was in Vancouver, and by the time I came back, it was easily clear of just seminary in Toronto.
Mm.
Um, I think they were past the due date. I remember calling them. I didn't even ask them. I just said, I'm coming. I'm sending my stuff. And then started attending seminary. And and then when you're there, people are like, hey, do you want to be a youth pastor? I did the proper Christian thing of I'll pray about it. I don't know how much I really heard anything, but said all right, I'll be a pastor and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's kind of I think back on my life. I think it's funny. I had to go to God sent me to Korea to find Jesus, South Africa to tell me to go to seminary, Australia to start this hip hop ministry. Like he's got to take me far. Maybe the next one will be Hawaii. I won't mind that
Yeah,
if he wants to
yeah.
go
I always wanted to go to Hawaii too. So
Fiji or something like that. He's got to tell me something different.
yeah.
Go to Fiji, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He has a way of doing that, taking us out from our environment so we could hear him, you know?
Yeah.
I think
Because
so.
if we stick
Yeah.
in our environment, sometimes we just don't, we, we hear, but we don't listen. Or we listen, but we don't hear, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I said no to, going to church. I said no to going to seminary. I said no to being a pastor, and yet here,
Where are you now?
yeah, I got all those things. So
You could talk to him in any form or fashion. You
He's
always
going.
end
Yeah.
up doing exactly what he has planned.
yeah.
It just doesn't even matter.
And,
And it was funny too going to seminary because people were like, I knew some pastors. I asked them, I'm like, should I go to seminary? And they're all like, no. And I was like, I thought it was personal. I was like, what you trying to say about me? But they're like, no, unless you're like 100% sure this is God's call, like go, this is too hard. Pastoring is too hard. And then that one pastor that hooked me up with the church, he was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I was like, well, everyone else saying no. And he's like, well, I'll think of it this way. If you go for a year, you know, and you don't like it, it's not for you, you don't have to finish. And what have you done? You spent some money, some time, but you learned about God, you learned about the Bible. Like, what harm is that? So I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'll try it then. Like, it just kind of
mm-hmm.
eased my nervousness about it and just, okay, I'll try it for a year and realize how many things of that, him saying that, like, even in ministry now, I always think, all right, if a new idea comes, like, all right, we'll try for 3 months, see what happens. If it works, another 3 months. If it works, then another 6 months. Like if it doesn't work, then all right, 3 months wasn't a huge waste of time. And so, over the 11 years, we've tried a whole bunch of things and just some worked, some didn't. Because I don't think there's a blueprint for this kind of ministry. So we're just
Mm-hmm.
figuring it out. But God's been blessing and still moves it forward. And
Tell us, where's your location that you have these gatherings?
it's been all different places.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually have like a building or a central spot, and so our breakdance practices were there at like in Toronto. Well, people know the Toronto area. It's like, well, technically Stonehill because on the north side of Steeles Avenue was like Bayview and Steeles. Um, we've had rap practices at like Midtown Toronto. We've had things in uh, York area of Toronto. Now we got the guy in Calgary doing stuff, but I think we've done everything and we've done something in the six boroughs of Toronto, but because there's no kind of central place for hip hop, like it's not like there's not like an equivalent of like Chinatown or like Little Greek Village or something like that. So we just kind of see where people are and where we can kind of be blessed with facilities to use and we'll try things out there in various places. So right now it's been mostly in or around Toronto. Now there's a guy in Calgary, which has been real helpful and such a blessing. And who knows? And we've had a couple guys other places in Toronto, like they might be interested in doing stuff. We had one guy in Puerto Rico, he might be interested in doing stuff. So we never know what's gonna happen. But yeah, it's been kind of all over the place, you know.
Is this your full time ministry or?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, yeah,
I can't imagine doing this full time. Sometimes like, okay, God, what do you want me to move from here now? Because I'm not seeing the light at the end of the road here. How does this
yeah.
go? Yeah. Now, have you
Oh,
ever had?
it was.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was saying it was crazy because I was one of those guys where it was like I would apply to ministry jobs that were like, say, like, street involved youth and things like
Mm.
that. And as soon as they said, "Oh, you got to raise your own funds," and I'd be like, "All right, I'm out. Thanks, thanks for the cheers. I'm done." Kind of stuff. But after God told me to do hip hop ministry, and then I left that church I was at, um, and for like a few years, didn't have income coming in, and yet God provided for me and my family, and it was just like this doesn't make any sense. And especially like this happens to these are stories about other people, like
Other
does
Right.
people.
Yeah.
any sense, and just but I saw like my confidence in savings in my bank account become less and less and less. but my confidence and trust in God go up more and more and more. And just,
Amen.
and now, now you're a missionary. A few years later, I found SIM Canada, and they kind of vetted me and took me on and said, "Oh, we want to back you in this, part you in this." And so, now you have supporters and, prayer supporters, financial supporters, that kind of stuff. But, like any other missionary
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff, I'm just not happen to be overseas, but it's been a real blessing to see God provide through them, and just be a blessing, and just it's been awesome to be on this and see, like, this doesn't, like, again, on paper, like, this does not make sense, like, like living, we all know, like, living in Toronto, this is like impossible, like, even like, I don't know if even God's like, I don't know if I can help you there, but but he does, he still provides, and it's been
Yeah.
quite awesome to see.
I wonder sometimes. Have you ever? Because I'm assuming the people that are coming, not everybody is a believer, not everybody is a Christian that comes into to your in the environment, right?
No, most, like, say our Bible studies, online Sunday night Bible studies, they're Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Except for like one guy or one or two people. They're Christians. Say our breakdance practices on Mondays, I would say like 95% are not Christian. Um, yeah, and so, we get to kind of be in both. I don't want to say both arenas, like they're totally excluded from each other, but
Mm-hmm.
probably most of the people I deal with are non-Christians. uh, and it's been fun and great, and just,
Have you
yeah.
ever come across someone who's like he wants to be a part of what is happening, but he don't want to hear anything about God? How do you reach out to someone like that?
I'm not, I don't take any offense to it. I get it. You don't want to hear about God. Okay. I'm still here to support the scene, and bless people, and
Mm-hmm.
say you don't have to be a Christian to come to breakdance practices or graffiti sketch sessions. Like, they're just to help you in breakdancing.
Mm-hmm.
They're just to help you, in graffiti. They're just to help you in DJing and stuff. And, if we talk about God, great, but I'm not going to force the issue. That's on you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we just want to, those kind of things. We just want to bless people regardless. And if they want to talk about God, I'll gladly talk about God. If they don't want to talk about God, I'll still love you and care for you, and check in on you, see how you're doing in life, and the rest of your life and things like that. And so, that's kind of how we end up going about it.
And of course the environment of course must have music playing. So what kind of music you play during that period of time? Is it gospel, rap, gospel, hip hop, or is it anything?
So for me, in the breaking session that I host, like, there are other breaking sessions in Toronto,
Mm-hmm.
say, the ones that I host, I intentionally kind of, I'll either play instrument. How do I say this? I don't play music that has violent or sexual or drug,
Mm-hmm.
or, kind of those kind of lyrics. I'll play songs if they are straight instrumentals, or if they're, uh, the occasional one that are like, I'm better than you song, because, you're learning breakdancing, you have to battle and be in
Mm-hmm.
competition, like, you're
Right.
kind of up, that's part of the culture anyway. But I don't play those things, not because I'm so much against those things, like, I think, but I guess what I don't want is, I believe music can set a mood.
Right.
And so I don't want to have a mood where it is violent and sexual, and not that these guys are like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to
Yeah.
have that kind of vibe in the session. And so I'd rather it just be music, fun, let's build community too. So it's mostly just music, or if there's rap songs, I'll kind of edit it, or just not play them, or just play parts of it, or whatever. But so I just try to avoid a certain mood by not playing certain songs. I want it to be, again, I don't know if that really has an effect to that degree that I worry about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I just want it to be like a fun place where people can practice and build community, and is kind of just, enjoy the time.
Yeah.
Have you
So,
ever had in that same environment again someone who came in not knowing about God, pretty messed up in the thinking, and actually you were able to lead them to Christ through that ministry?
um, probably not through the breaking sessions,
Mm-hmm.
um, because we don't have, the way it ends up being is, say we'll have like 30 people show up, they're practicing, they'll do like 2 3 minutes of practicing, then kind of 2 3 minutes of sitting, and then
Mm-hmm.
2 3 minutes of practicing. So I try to jump in, while they're resting and just being like, hey, how you doing? And I'm real thankful that even though I don't break, I'm not a break dancer.
Hmm.
So eh, so for me, it's just more how do I care for them? How do I, and I appreciate them kind of letting me into that circle, letting me into that
Hmm.
scene, you know, and I figure the most I can contribute is more just like I'm appreciative of the fact that it's not just breakdancing now. Now it's to the point where I can talk to some people about like how's work, how's your girlfriend, boyfriend, how's life, that kind of stuff. And then but I'm also glad that we have had conversations about, well, this is what gospel says, this is what God says, this is what, the Bible is, and those kind of things. So I feel like we're, as much as it doesn't always allow for kind of the like the evangelism gospel presentation,
Right.
I feel like it's a place where opportunities do come up. And again, we're not trying to force it or
Right.
trick it.
Right. Right. Right.
It does come up in terms of, I think we get to help build them up to those conversations. And
Hmm.
so we're still always building them up
Mhm.
to those conversations.
Well, I understand. I
Mhm.
just wanted to know if you've ever seen it happening. If because I know for sure. I've been in situations where I have like actually even my neighbor. I've been living close to
Mm.
him for almost 11 years, and we barely share two words of good morning, hello, hi, how you doing, kind of thing. And within the last after a tragic event that took place, him and I started talking, and now he's actually ministering in my church after 1 year. So it could take years before someone, but
Yeah.
people are watching, people are seeing, people are looking at you, and they're observing who you are as an individual, and are you really truly who you say you are.
Mm.
Especially when they figured, oh, he's a pastor. Okay, let's check him out. Maybe he's one of those fake ones, or um, oh, he goes to church. Let's see what his lifestyle is like. And so when people see things like that, they come to you eventually because they know that it, as you said, you create a safe space and a space of honesty and openness that people can share if they want to. Yet at the same time, not really forcing them. And I think we were only called to go tell, go preach, go tell, and
Exactly.
then leave the rest to God. We plant the seed, somebody else is
Right.
going to water.
Right.
You never know how you
Yeah.
plant the seed and where
Mhm.
someone else is going to pick up the mantle from there and just continue to do what God has allowed you to start. And I feel sometimes we will never see um, the end result. Some of us may
Yeah.
never see the end result. I remember this case, a story actually, where a mother was praying for her son for 24 years, and the day before she died, she said to her son, "Son, I would love to see you in heaven, but if you don't make that choice, I can't." Um, and he said, "Okay, mom, it's fine, you know." And he thought that he was gonna come back to meet her later, come back and found out that she had passed away. Uh, and it's 2 years later, I guess he was said he hit rock bottom, and he remembers his mom's words. And the only way he can really pull his life together is by surrendering. 2 years later, his mother never seen it. She's gone,
Right.
Mm.
and he said, I wished I had done it so my mom can see my life today. He ended up being a pastor anyways, but I guess that was the running, right? We all run from it.
Right.
I
Yeah.
hear people make those words,
Mhm.
call
Mhm.
name, they
I'm
call
not.
me names. You know what I'm saying? They call
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
names.
They
Hey,
call.
Pastor Claremont.
It's
Hey,
good
hey, wait,
names.
wait, wait,
Good
wait, wait.
names.
Let's
Good
not go
names.
there.
Good
Let's
names.
not go there.
He doesn't
Yeah.
want to speak certain things into existence,
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
should
I know the
know
feeling. I know the
Yeah.
feeling.
that, he should know that regardless of if he allows somebody to speak something or not speak something, what the will of God is. So,
Very true.
Yeah.
God will do what he will do. I mean, I worked in the industry in the medical industry for 21 years, and then they had layoffs, and there I was one of them, you know, all of a sudden, bam.
Here you are.
And then all of a sudden, bam, here I am.
What wasn't in our wasn't in our
A month
scope, yeah.
later, bam, here I am. And I'm like, okay, God, you have to be the one that plopped me here. Now you're gonna
Mm.
have to just take care of the rest of the stuff.
It is funny because we used to have this guy come out and we nicknamed him Solo.
Mm-hmm.
And once he got married, I wanted to change his nickname to Solo No Mo, but that didn't stick. But we wanted to, but he would come in and tell us stories of like, I was coming to the Bible study and like these three thugs were standing over there and God told me to talk to them and I just went and talked to them and they accepted Christ and just came here and we all our jaws are on the floor. So we're like, how do you do that? And then we realized he was like eventually he's saying, oh, I just listened for the Spirit. But then I realized after, not to take away from what he does, it's
Mhm.
like, oh, probably before he talked to those guys, there could have been like 20, 30 guys planting seeds,
Yeah,
watering.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah,
it made
yeah.
me realize. So now I try to encourage people with this now going, is those evangelist guys that have the gift of evangelism, they get all the credit, sure,
Mm.
but if you do your part, if you're like that second person in that 20-person
Right,
Mm-hmm.
chain,
right.
you're still on mission. You're still doing outreach. You're still part of that. And so just
Mhm.
keep doing your part. And I do feel like I'm the worst evangelist in the world. Like if someone asks
Oh,
me
you
about
got
Jesus,
two.
I'll
You
give
got
them
two.
I'll give them like a 2 hour, here's a 2 hour lecture of everything I know. And it's like that was not effective at all.
Yeah.
But my hope is that I get better at evangelism, but in the meantime, I hope at least I'm still a good witness. I hope at least I'm still someone who can bring some parts of the word to their life and whether it's giving them a Bible or quoting the Bible, but if we have those
Right.
conversations. But I hope I can be a good witness, like you were saying, that just in terms of your character and how you behave. And, it is like we put on breaking sessions. I generally do like care for these guys in their lives and how they're doing, whether they believe in God or not. How do I care
Mhm.
for you guys? Or like, even though, when we have our Sunday night Zoom calls, Bible studies, it's like the same. How do we care for these guys? Check in on them once in a while if you don't see them. And you guys doing okay and stuff like that. And I hope, even though that's who I am and that's what I want to do,
Mhm.
I hope that also reflects on Christ, being a caring God and stuff.
So when those guys come for breakdancing and graffiti artwork and so forth, are they invited to the Zoom meeting, or do you hand that invitation to them, or no?
If they ask for it, I'll invite them.
Mm.
Again, I'm
Mhm.
just so worried, maybe over worried about it feeling like a trick, like a bait and switch
Right, right, right.
kind of stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so kind of don't do that. I have invited people, but it's not.
Right.
I don't. Maybe there's no interest there or something like that, or
One of
Yeah.
the things I want to encourage you with this, you continue to do what God has called you to do,
Mhm.
and also to be transparent with them. I find you may not know, you may not see. In some cases, the Lord gives you a little bit one or I call it one and two little visions and says, just to encourage you. Hey, here's one over there. Okay, here's another one. Okay, good. All right, I keep doing what I'm doing. But you may not know the thousands you've already affected, because they may say, I remember when Youngdo was saying this to me. Maybe and they move on. They might have already gone on already, but you don't know. So keep doing what you're doing, man. And we appreciate you sharing your ministry with us here. Planning
Yeah.
on starting a church soon, by the way?
what's funny is that I feel like God's been telling me that for years, and I just keep saying no.
No.
So
Listen, stop saying no, man.
You
After a while,
know.
he puts you in a corner. You got no choice, right? He sits you
Right.
down and says,
I
"You're gonna
know,
Right.
stop saying no
Right.
now."
I
Take
know.
it from the one that knows that sometimes he just will sit you down and you wouldn't have a choice but to do what he initially wanted you to do anyway. Right now you're probably a seed planter and somebody else is
Yep.
watering, but you just never know when he's gonna make you the seed planter and the waterer. So you better get yourself ready. You never
Oh,
know.
I know, and it's just I feel like it's coming, and I don't think I have a much say about it. Like you're just
Mhm.
gonna eventually say yes, okay,
See,
you
don't
know.
make him don't make him put you in a place where that makes you say yes now. You
You know
know
what it
that
is?
yes is coming. You better practice how to say it.
Right. It's like I can't go to the beach. I don't know when that giant fish is gonna come. So,
Exactly. You
There
know what I'm
you
saying?
go. There you
you know.
go. Take you to Nineveh, right?
And the thing is that I mean our ministry here, this radio ministry has been 24 years. It's gonna be 24 years in June. We're gonna complete the 24 years, right?
Awesome.
And when I first started, I had no clue what I was doing. Absolutely no clue. I was like a person in the middle of the ocean who don't know how to swim, I'm in a dinghy and I don't have a paddle and I don't know how to get into shore and I'm trying to get there. Eventually, I found myself there, and here we are, 24 years later, still doing what God has called me to do. And I was talking to Faiti. I was having a conversation with someone in St. Kitts, and they were telling their family member, "Oh, this is the radio evangelist." I'm thinking, radio what? We call it radio host, a gospel radio host. She says, "No, this," but that's what we say. And I'm like, you know, rightfully so. That's what you're doing, evangelizing the scriptures, evangelizing the word of God, we're evangelizing Christ to the people, the masses. And so, therefore, you just have to sit back and say, "Okay, God, you got me here. I'm willing." The first thing you got to do really is say, "I'm willing to go." Once you say, "I'm willing to go," it doesn't matter where He send you.
Oh, I know.
Right.
That's why I
So,
don't want to say it.
That's why.
listen,
Listen, brother.
I got
Listen,
cornered,
brother. We don't
okay?
want you to
And
learn the
trust me,
hard
don't learn
way,
the hard way, man.
okay?
The hard way is
You know,
hard.
you know what it is? It's it's as well for me that I don't want it to be like we start a church and it's just out of let's just start a church. Not that I'm worried about ego or anything like that. It's like I want to know that there's a real need for one,
Mm,
you know, that there's a need. And then two, it's still figuring out I mean, all these years I've still been thinking it through about like, okay, if we start one, what does it look like? Does it look like the traditional mainstream church, or does it have another form that's kind of more natural to hip hop guys? Or, you know, so what would that look like? And so I'm not even as much as I try to stall, I still think about it and I still figure and try to figure out how does this work? And I've asked people questions of like, how do you start a church and what does that look like? So I'm kind of I know I'm stalling and telling God no, but at the same time, I'm doing the research. I'm doing the work to be like, okay, what is this really? You know, but I do want it to be more out of not just I want to do it. It's just more like there's a need here. Like I think of it as like if people want to know about Christ, it's not so much about the building or the space or what the service looks like. It's like they need a group of people. And I think especially hip hop heads, the hip hop community culture is so community minded, so communal that it's more about a group of people. And so it's like these guys, if they want to know about God and Jesus, see the witness of Christ, see like even as scripture says, like they'll know you're my disciples by the way you love one another. Well, then we need that group of one another to be an example. So like let's corral these guys and say, hey, let's start this group, let's start this crew that will really kind of be that example that people can come to, you know, rather than come to this building at this time where it's like, hey, here's a group of people that'll totally walk with you guys. And in that sense of a church, we have that. In that aspect of the church, we already have that. We have a community
So
that
then you
will
have started a
gladly
church, then you didn't even know.
So you have,
You see,
right?
you
That's
have
what I'm
started
getting
a
ready to
church and
say.
you
You
didn't even
started the
know.
church
Yeah,
already.
because you know what? We think of, you have to have a praise and worship
A
team, you have to
building.
have I have to have this building.
right.
And when I look back in the scripture, it never said anything like that. It always talk about they meet in homes and they discuss and they
Right.
talk about the scriptures and they're being taught and how to live
Right.
and this is what we need. A lot of young people go to church and
Right.
you walk into church, you go through the regular church stuff and you come out and you still don't know how to live your Christian life and you're struggling and all kinds of stuff hitting you. You don't know how to battle with it. You don't know how to say you don't have a brother you can go and say, listen, I'm suffering depression right now and I don't know what to do, or you're having this anxiety attack and you're a male and I feel like crying, but because I'm a man, I can't cry, and you don't have a brotherhood to say, hey man, we got your back, we standing with you, we're gonna pray you
Yeah.
through this, we're gonna, you need us, call us at any time. And I think that's what the church's supposed to look like as opposed to what it
Right.
looks like now. We have more organizational religious gatherings more than we have a church, which is the body of Christ. And body ministry really is helping each other out. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, you're doing
Yeah.
it
I
already,
mean,
brother.
So,
I do love mainstream churches. I do love the church in general,
Mm,
and it's great. Um, you know, I think part of us, the DJ in Calgary, he wanted to start kind of like, well, why don't we try a hip hop service and see what that's like? And so we put that together. So that's kind of another foot in the water. Like, okay, are we starting a church? Like, this is our version of a church service kind of stuff. But, you know, and I do think, yeah, maybe we do have one. I just don't have one. Like, it's just harder because like some of
I
the
would
guys
say to you, let me put you a little bit at ease here. Um, what does the church look like? And
Yeah.
which church are we speaking of? Are we speaking about the body of Christ, which is the church itself, or are we speaking about people who are gathering in different organizations? For matter of fact, you have the Protestants, the Baptists, the Pentecostals, the Church of God in Christ, the Southern Baptists. You have all these different denominations that really, that's not what the church is or supposed to be like. So if God has called you, like for example, my little pinky doesn't look like my thumb, and definitely my nose don't look like my mouth. So the body of Christ has different parts that has to be figured out, and you're just doing your part. So a hip hop service might be the part that reached out to young people that I can't reach. You
Right.
understand?
I think what our secret kind of hope is that when we have the online services once a month, that
Mm-hmm.
people, you're always going to have people that are just kind of watching it on their own because it's
Mm-hmm.
just streamed on YouTube and
Right.
stuff. But I think what our hope is eventually, we'll have kind of, I guess the equivalent of watch parties. You know, people will watch it together in groups, and
Mm-hmm.
that those become
Uh,
kind of like, I need that brother, I need brothers and sisters that will walk with me. It's like, all right, here's a small group of us that will do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be the equivalent of, I'm not saying this is the way God is planning it. I don't know, still think about it, but like, you know, like if you have a house, it'd be equivalent of saying we're a church of small groups kind of thing, where it's like, well, we have this crew in Puerto Rico and New York and California and Toronto and Calgary, and just people, you know, like groups of a dozen people that are kind of meeting together, watching the service, but then the rest of the month, the rest of the weeks, they're still building fellowship and helping each other and walking with each other. And that
Right.
would be amazing to get to that point, you know. And so it's figuring out how do we, if that's the direction to go, how do we get to that point, and how do we build that up, kind of stuff. And so we've had little bits here and there. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where we originally started getting the idea of like, oh, someone did that and someone did that. Oh, cool. Without our prompting,
Right.
it's gonna happen. So we're like, oh, is that the way God's going? Okay. But then we're trying to see if that's kind of the way we should go, and figure that out. And so um yeah, you know, I think you're right, like out of my mouth I'm kind of saying no, no, I don't want to do it, but I think we might
on the
already
Yeah, you
inside,
already,
we're
you
admitting
already
already.
that you already said yes.
we already doing it. Yeah, so
Listen, we
yeah.
want to thank you so much for joining us today. We gotta go.
Uh,
And I appreciate you. I want you to know that you have our support anytime. If we can help even stream some of your online stuff as well, just reach out to our station manager. He will coordinate this with you, and anything we can do to help and to keep encouraging you what you're doing, because I think you're doing a fantastic job.
yes, indeed.
Let us know, and God bless you, man.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, and thank you for your encouragement, and yeah, convincing me that maybe God, I'm
That
already
you already said
there.
yes?
You
So
already
yeah,
said
but
yes.
but thank
Thank.
you for having me on. I appreciate it. It's been fun. This is great. 24 years. This is amazing what you
Yeah.
guys are doing. That's awesome. So
Yeah. And
uh,
again, say to
Yeah.
Craig for me, tell him I say hello.
we'll do.
All
We'll
right.
do.
Blessings to you, my
Thank
brother.
you.
All right.
All right.
Blessings to you guys
Blessings.
too.
Take care. All right.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
For the best listening experience, please download our sprlivefm.com app from either the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. You will not only experience our radio, but SPR, TV, and live chat.